Welcome to The Spotlight, the show that brings you voices of those who truly feed our nation, our small-scale farmers. Whether you're a farmer, a consumer, or just someone who cares about where your food comes from, this show is for you. This is The Spotlight, where small-scale farmers lead the discussion towards a just and resilient food system.
Hello, our viewers and listeners outside there. Welcome to The Spotlight, a production by ESAF Uganda. Our discussion today is going to be around understanding the nexus between land governance and agroecology. These are often two concepts that are discussed independently, but today, with the two distinguished experts that I have here, we are going to try to understand those two concepts and see what practical solutions we can bring on board to be able to understand them, but also to see how our approaches align to these two concepts. I have with me two distinguished guests. I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves.
I am Dr. Doreen Kobsinje. I work as a facilitator for the National Land Coalition Uganda. National Land Coalition is a platform of over 40 organizations in Uganda that work on land. And our goal is to see that we influence and policy and practice change to see that we contribute to people-centered land governance. For the last 14 years, I've been working on land governance in the country. Thank you.
Welcome, Dr. Doreen. The gentleman.
Thank you. My name is Moses Onen. I work with Participatory Ecological Land Use Management, Pelham, Uganda, as the manager in charge of the advocacy program. Pelham, Uganda is an association organization. It's a network organization of about 74 members, and these organizations working to promote ecological land use management. And for the past 30 years, we have been making a contribution towards promoting agroecology, towards promoting sustainable farming systems. Our goal is to have the communities sustainably utilizing their natural resources. And we have been journeying in this with the smallholder farming communities, the government, influencing policies and practice change, among other things. On this subject, I'm glad to be the discussant.
Thank you very much, my two very good experts. Each one of them has brought on board experience, but also knowledge that they've acquired over time. So I want us to go straight to what has brought us here today. We're talking about the nexus between land governance and agroecology. And Dr. Doreen, you've told us that you've been working for 14 years with land governance, influencing policy, influencing practice. So I want you to help our viewers outside there to understand what does land governance mean, but also bringing on board how is land governance an important element when we talk about agroecology.
Okay. Thank you, Stella. Land governance, I would go by how FAO is Food and Agriculture Organization, a UN organization, how it describes land governance as a process of making decisions around access, use, ownership, and control over land, but also how these decisions are implemented and how the resulting conflicts and the conflicting interests are resolved on land. So in short, land governance has over 4 arms. It is how decisions on access, use, control, and utilization of land are determined. After they are determined, how are they implemented? With the implementation, it's now putting them in practice. But we understand that through the implementation and through the determining of these decisions, conflicts on land are bound to happen. So how are these conflicts resolved? Are they left to go silent? Are there structures in place to resolve the conflicts? So that is now the whole spectrum of what land governance is. Now, land governance is very important because we are talking about decision making implementing, but resolving conflicts. Now, if you relate it to agroecology, it is tenure security first before you think of what you put the land to use. It is, am I right secure when I have this land? And that is how I'll be able to engage into production that protects nature but also contributes to food production and contributes to improving people's incomes. So let's get the land rights proper first, and then all these other things are going to come into play. Then also with tenure security, we have to understand also the nexus between tenure security and food systems, because at the end of the day, we want nutritious food, we want protection of the environment, we want this land, the resource that God has given us, to be put to proper use. Now, also the other issue is land governance entails tenure security or tenure insecurity, but this will have an impact on the adoption of the mitigation or adoption of actions that are going to help us to deal with climate change issues. An example is if tenure is secure, especially land, people are going to be engaged in things like agroforestry, growing trees, but also even protecting those species that are very important for ecologically sensitive areas, etc. And this means, because I know my land rights are secure, that means I'm going to protect this land. I am going to put it to use because I know no one is going to put me away from this land. But also when you look at land governance, there is a connection of insecure land rights and then the destruction of the environment. That is when people are going to go into wetlands. That is when people will cut the trees down because they are not sure of their stay on this land the next day. So me, in my conclusion about this is land governance is the bedrock on which all these other things are going to stand. The agroecology that we are talking about and its importance, but also relating on where all this is going to be done, which is land.
Thank you very much, Doctor. So you talked about land governance being a concept that has issues to do with ownership, access, control, titles, disputes, and tenure security. So I want you to paint for us a picture where, for example, maybe weak land governance has maybe tried to stifle the adoption of agroecology as a practice.
Let me even first start. We know that the biggest percentage, over 80% of women, are the ones that work on land. That means they have the knowledge. I would say they are the custodian of the knowledge about agroecology. Yes. So we have seen that the kind of land governance that is there, most of the women's land rights are not secure, yet they are the ones that are supposed to help drive the agenda of agroecology. So that is a limitation there. We should first get the women's land rights secure, basing on the fact that they are the majority producers, they are the laborers on land, and they form the bulk of the biggest percentage of small-scale landholders. Now, that put aside, we look into issues of land disputes. Land disputes, of course, deriving from land governance. If the decisions that I talked about are not done well, or if they are infringing on a particular group of people, that means we are experiencing land conflicts, conflicts that are going to put land out of production, conflicts that are going to make people unable to adopt or to utilize climate smart like agriculture or those actions, because there is something that is denying them, and those are the conflicts, that is denying them from enjoying or utilizing the land, so that we promote agroecology. When you look at the rampant evictions that we have and this is common knowledge. We all see this in Uganda. There is no way someone is going to care, protect this land that they are using when they are not sure if they will be evicted today or tomorrow. It is also the land governance decisions that are going to determine if land is given or allocated to the rich or to the powerful or to the vulnerable. Now, the agenda that we have in Uganda, the agenda of investments on land, it is encouraging the large-scale land producers. And these are going into growing monocrops, and of which they are not intended for the local market. They are intended for the outside market. But also we have seen those are the ones that are reliant on mechanization. They are reliant on, modernizing agriculture, using pesticides that are contributing to the reduction of soil fertility. So here we see that it has come from land allocation, which is inclined to the powerful, to the rich, and those that are connected, and leaving out the majority real land users, who are in most cases small scale, who are the women, who are the vulnerable, but also who have this knowledge of putting nature into use that is sustainable.
Thank you very much for really painting for us that picture. I want to come to Mr. Moses Onen. You work with Pelham Uganda, and from the description that you've given, Pelham Uganda is participatory ecological land use management. So that is a very broad, but also it brings our discussion to life. So from an agroecological perspective, I want you to try to define for the viewers outside there what agroecology is, because it is oftentimes it is a concept that is not very common to everyone, but it's trying to gain traction. Many people are getting to get interested in it. So try to make us understand what agroecology is. What are some of those core principles that we must not move without utilizing them, but also what is the role of tenure security in the adoption or the success of agroecology? Over to you.
Thank you, our moderator, and thank you, our viewers and listeners. When you talk about agroecology, first of all, the word itself brings on board two dimensions. Agro, which speaks to agriculture as a practice, agriculture which doesn't only mean crops, but also livestock. And many times people tend to forget the livestock angle of it. Livestock includes entomology and fisheries as well. So that is one arm of it when you talk about agroecology, agriculture, yes. Livestock, crops, fisheries, and entomology. At the other side, it's ecology. Ecology simply denotes the natural order, the setting that creation has endowed us with. As we are seated here, this scenery looks very beautiful. It's because of the ecology, the ecological components. So ecology, in simple terms, these are the different components, the plants, the animals, birds, the air, the micronutrients in the soil, all that. The way God has created it and the way God has designed these different aspects to depend on one another in such a way that if you remove one player in ecology, you have disrupted the ecological setting. So agroecology looks at that fundamental principle of how do we sustain this ecosystem that nature has endowed us with. There is nothing in nature that has no use. Every component has its role it plays to complement to the existence and sustainability of other components. So agroecology, in simple terms, is that kind of agriculture that centers on ecological principles in farming, but also blends it with social justice. So ecological principles and social justice. Why social justice? Because man is a great player in the ecology. Our work greatly impacts our environment and the systems. So we need to add that component of social justice so that we at all times remain alert and we are reminded that we have a very huge impact in terms of the activities that we do in the environment. I'll borrow a definition from the Food and Agriculture Organization, that is FAO, how FAO has defined agroecology. Many scholars have tried to put that perspective to agroecology, but what remains constant is ecological principles and social justice. FAO goes ahead to dissect it further and say agroecology, it's about the practices which we have been undertaking from time immemorial. How do we till land? How do we maintain soil fertility? How do we feed the soil? Yes, all that has sets of practice. How do you deal with runoffs, erosion? How do you deal with
Climate
pests?
issues.
Yes, diseases. Those are practices.
Yes.
So that's one pillar of agroecology. Now, the second one is the science. We know there's rapid climate change, and we know there are a lot of scientific elements that we use in agriculture to deal with pests, diseases, and also other infections that can attack livestock. So the science comes in. Agroecology should integrate the science into the practice. Science is not only modern science. We also have the traditional science that has been here from time immemorial. For example, our elders will tell you that when you see the black kite flying, coming around, you know that rain is about to.
Oh, rain.
Yes.
Okay.
When you see, we also have some plant that would give us red flowers. When it starts to sprout, know that the onset of rain is just at the doorstep.
Wow.
That is science. Science. So agroecology should integrate science and knowledge, and finally, it should bring in the component of movement building, movement of mankind that advocate for sustainable natural resource governance. So when you remove movements in the approaches, then you're not talking about agroecology. Agroecology should blend the three components. And scholars have given us about 12 to 13 principles of agroecology. Agroecology has principles and also elements. I will not go so much into the elements because they are aligned to the principles. But what we talk about mainly are the principles of agroecology. And land governance is one of the core principles of agroecology, natural resources governance, and specifically land governance. It talks about the need to have land governance that appreciates the nature, the rights, the roles of different actors when it comes to land. We talked about the roles of women.
Yes, yes.
Women utilize land more than us men. So land governance should particularly interest itself in opening up space for women to participate actively, but also to be protected when it comes to issues of land. Access, use, and control all should be in one. The other principle that we talk about is recycling. Recycling to see that nothing is put to waste
Exactly.
as much as possible. Recycling helps to mitigate land degradation in various aspects. Talk about plastics, talk about the bio degradable materials we have, all should be recycled to mitigate degradation of land. The other principle is on biodiversity. The biodiversity has to be protected at all costs. Our action on land as man should not eliminate biodiversity in the fauna and the flora, all that. So biodiversity is key when it comes to agroecology, because the different components, like I stated earlier, have all their roles. The other one is social values. When we are engaging in agriculture, we need to be mindful of the social values. And these social values are rooted in our cultures and traditions. And I would like to speak about one specific one, is the norm around the understanding of women ownership, use, and control of land. Agroecology emphasizes that the norms should be supportive for all actors, including women, including persons with disability, including the older persons, all that, because each of that category brings unique contribution to how land is understood, how land is governed, how land is protected, and how land is used.
Yes.
Women have their mechanisms for protecting land that we cannot understand as men.
And they are sometimes are not even documented.
They are not documented, but it has worked from time immemorial. Like in my community where I come from, in Acholi, we inherit land from where our mothers have been cultivating.
Okay.
You cannot access land, you cannot use land that your mother has not been using before. So you see that very traditional, culturally rooted, and very powerful. And if I enter dispute with my brother and it becomes so contentious, it will be my mother to resolve it.
Wow.
Once she says this, it is that.
So it brings on board the role of women
Exactly.
in dispute resolution.
Exactly.
Okay.
So agroecology underscores that principle of social values. Agroecology also underscores the principle of participation. Participation now, it comes to decision making.
Yes.
How is the process? Agroecology emphasizes that decision making processes should be participatory. When it comes to land governance, we need to prioritize participation, inclusion, informed consent at all times.
Leaving no one behind.
Leaving no one behind. So that is very key. And also it emphasizes soil health, it emphasizes economic diversity. Yes, those are principles. It emphasizes connectivity, that's networking, among others. There are 13.
Yes.
Yes, I will not go into them one by one. And now, at the Nexus, I would like to thank Doctor for putting out the Nexus very clearly. Land governance is the bedrock.
True, true.
You cannot talk about agroecology without talking about land governance. Land governance will tell you who should own land or who should use land and how they should use it and for how long.
Yes.
And the conditions
for the use.
for the use. That is land governance. And the institutions and the roles the institutions should play in supporting land governance. So, agroecology hinges on good land governance. For example, if the land governance system stifles women's participation in decision making, it will not support agroecological transition.
Because that is one of the principles.
Exactly.
Okay.
If land governance does not provide for institutions that can effectively deal with issues of dispute resolution, then agroecology cannot take effect.
Right. Yes.
So, the nexus is that one, the land governance should be functional and should integrate these principles of agroecology. The principles should be understood and embedded in the land governance.
Yes.
Whether the structures, whether the institution, whether the processes should embed agroecology in it. And that is a starting point. She mentioned it rightly that land tenure security has direct impact on agroecology. Yes, for example, I can't invest in long-term crops if I'm not sure that next year I'll still own the same piece of land. It can't happen. I can't invest in soil enhancing technologies if I'm not sure that next year I'll still own the same piece of land.
Yes.
I will not protect the biodiversity. A typical example, in one of the communities in northern Uganda, I visited them, and we found they were hiring huge chunks of land to people who burn charcoal. And we asked them, why are you hiring this land for charcoal burning? There was indiscriminate cutting of trees.
Okay.
And it was by people from other communities into that community. So when we asked them, they said, for us, we are temporarily holding this land. We are sure government has already given this land to investors, and they're not being clear to us. So we better benefit from it
By cutting every tree.
before government comes and evicts us from here. So we are doing this so we can at least get something from it,
Before
and we
it's
don't
finally
walk
taken out.
empty-handed. So you can see that. And biodiversity was lost.
True.
You can't explain it. So land governance has underpinning on agroecology.
Thank you very much, Moses. You have really brought out this connection, but also made the listeners outside there to understand what agroecology is, but also bringing on board land governance. Those principles are actually the ones that are going to help us to find a balance between the two concepts. You've talked about inclusivity, talked about social values, something that is not very common when we're talking about maybe issues that are not connected. But for now, we have really established that there's a connection between land governance and agroecology. When you talk about titling, who gets a title? How do you use that land that you've got a title on? Who actually has the right to dictate how that land is managed?
Or the power to make the decision
Exactly.
on
The
what
power to
crops
make a
are going to
decision.
be
Exactly.
grown.
Which land am I going to use for how long? Yes. What decision am I going to make on the crops, even the crops that are being cultivated on the land? But if your tenure is not secure, that becomes a very difficult thing to come about. So I want to come back to Dr. Doreen just shortly. What are some of the most significant barriers that you've encountered in your work for the 14 years that you've worked on land governance? What are some of those barriers that you've encountered when linking land governance to agroecology in Uganda? If there is any that you've come across, what are some of those barriers?
The first one is limited land documentation, and I am calling it documentation, not titling.
Yes.
Documentation, any form of proof to show ownership or any form of proof to guarantee access, to guarantee use. The ones that contribute to a little bit of security, as in to contribute to that feeling of someone feeling secure on this land, that they will not be pushed away any day or any time. So because the documentation is limited, that means people can be taken advantage of. People can easily be thrown off the land, and that goes back to the influence that it has on sustainable utilization of this land, on the uptake of the mitigation or adoption actions to fight or to deal with climate change effects. You know, it all starts on land and the decisions that are being made. So limited documentation. Now, the social norms that we talk about and practices, we have identified, and Onen is alluding to it, that women play a big role in agroecology as custodians of knowledge of agroecology. You know, he was giving examples from Macholi, but I also witnessed how the ladies protected the shea nut tree. They could not cut it, they could not, because of the advantages of this particular tree. So the social norms and how they go back, as in if this woman is limited from using, from accessing, from enjoying all these rights that are there on land, then it's going to impact on how the agenda of agroecology is going to be driven. Now, the others, the widespread evictions that we talk about, and also the drive, by the way, towards modernization, mechanization of agriculture. It puts the small-scale farmers in balance. Then there is this issue of the land rights that we talk about. They're a continuum of rights. We've talked about the control, the ownership, the use, and the access. And we see that majority of the real land users are at the level of access. But also at the level of access, that is where people are most insecure about their rights. Anything can happen. So imagine this majority that are contributing to agroecology, that are contributing to the protection of the environment, the engaging into nature-friendly forms of agriculture, and that tenure is not secure. They are going to do the things that Onen has pointed out. They are going to unsustainably use these resources. They will cut down the trees. They will go into the wetlands. Yet these are ecologically sensitive areas that need to be protected. So all starting from land governance, but then going into this. Now, the policies, the policies that we have, I still retaliate, like we've said in other forums, that the laws that we have, the legal frameworks are really superb and they are good. But then, how about their implementation? So the issue comes from implementation. Remember, I've given an example of allocating the land to the rich, leaving out the vulnerable, but we have witnessed land corruption. We have witnessed those large-scale land investments and how they are impacting. You know, it is the mindset that is there, starting from how we are allocating land, how we are securing land, how the rights are protected, acknowledged and recognized, and how that translates into what is going to be done on land, the agroecology that we are talking about.
Thank you very much, Dr. Doreen, for highlighting that. I also want to come to Onen. Dr. Doreen has highlighted some of the barriers, but I also want to pick your mind on some of those barriers. Do you think they are just policy related? Are they governance related? Are they implementation related? What is your take on some of those barriers?
Yeah, in terms of the barriers, I would like to pick it up from, first of all, how our land tenure systems are structured. And specifically, I want to talk about the Milo, which has the occupants and the landlord and all that, the conflicts and disputes in Milo. Many times, without proper documentation of those rights, the Bibanja holders have been prone to unlawful evictions, which is a fact. And we have seen disruption of agriculture and disruption of establishments, irrigation plants, many of them. What should be ideal is for government to deal with the Milo land question. There are options that have been tabled that the landlord and the occupant can amicably arrive at and have it settled. So we encourage government to pay attention to the Milo land question and support the resolution of disputes under that tenure system. The other thing is about corruption in land governance. We have seen multiple titling. Yes? How does it happen?
On the same piece of land.
On the same piece of land. We have embraced digitalization of the land information system. It started way back, I think around 2012.
Yes.
And now we are 10 years. How do you explain incidents of double titling up to this time? So that goes to corruption. You only understand that in the logic of corruption.
Yes.
Because there should be no another reason to explain that. So corruption is still a challenge to deal with in land governance. And because of corruption, people are also obtaining titles on land they've never set foot on. Yes.
Or even on wetlands.
On wetlands. There are some titles that have been found in the lake, in Lake Victoria.
Forest reserves.
On the forest reserves.
On the forest reserves, everywhere, titles. Yeah? So, issues of corruption has to be tackled with iron fist for us to transition smoothly into agroecology. The other barrier is about our policies, yes? When you look at the Vision 2040, it speaks to attaining middle income status through industrialization.
Yes.
And they have put certain pillars there. We call them what? ATMs.
Exactly.
And agro-industrialization is focusing mainly on large scale
farmers.
farming, all that, pushing
The small
small scale farmers out. But in reality, who brings food at our table?
The small scale
The
farmers.
small scale farmers. These big farms, the monocrops, they produce for export, for other things. Production of feeds, yes, animal feeds, all that. And they say, after all, the smallholder farmers are there to feed the nation. Not forgetting that even the smallholder farmers are being pushed now to the walls.
True.
And the land is reducing year in, year out. And no wonder we have incidences of famine in Uganda.
Surprisingly.
Very, very, very weird. In Karamoja,
Yes.
very weird.
Not
Agroecology
just about Karamoja.
emphasizes
Teso sub-region, same issue.
agroecology emphasizes
We
networking,
have very fertile
connectivity.
land.
How can we say we are transitioning to agroecology when we cannot know what's happening the next door in Teso? How's the networking happening? There's no food in Teso,
There's no connectivity
and
at
food
all.
is in abundance in Acholi. And Teso region is not able to access food in Acholi. Food in Acholi is loaded on plane and exported. What are we talking
Taken
about?
South Sudan.
Taken to South Sudan,
Yes.
to Kenya.
So agroecology should speak to the realities. Yes. The other barrier is in the markets. Of course, the perception of our farmers. When you say you have produced agroecologically, no one will understand.
What does that even mean?
There's belief that in Uganda we are agroecological by default, but it's not. We have chemicals. Look at the tomatoes
Fertilizers.
in our markets, sprayed, all looking whitish.
And just to
Actually, it's not red now.
just to give context to what you've talked about, last week, but one, SF Uganda at least had a multi-stakeholder engagement in Busia and Bujiri. And the whole objective of this was to try to find out in those territorial markets of Busia, Kenya and Busia, Uganda, are there even agroecological produce? Do they even exist? People even don't understand what you talk about, what you're talking about. People want to produce with, people want to produce with fertilizers because someone even told us that for them, if they took their tomatoes to the market, even it's the customers that ask them whether those tomatoes are actually the good type because they want the big size. So, and you know, the big size is the one that comes with the chemicals, spraying. They want the ones that are big. But when you talk about those agroecological produce, no one even wants to look at your stall. So those are some of the challenges those people even encountered. Yes.
Actually, in 2022, NADS published a report, and the report was saying only 12% of farmers in Uganda were able to access information on agroecology and organic farming.
Wow.
Only 12%. That is NAD's report. So it speaks to what you're saying. The policy we have currently is inclined towards promoting synthetic farming, chemicals, agrochemicals, synthetic fertilizers, yes? And there are companies that go to the villages there, they're promoting hybrids, they distribute the seeds to farmers,
Yes.
they distribute fertilizers to farmers, and then they say, yeah, we shall get the payment after you have sold off.
But they are also causing a dependency
they're
syndrome.
causing, the dependency syndrome. Government is not coming out clearly on farmer managed seed systems.
Exactly.
You know, farmer managed seed systems, this is our traditional system wherein we preserve our seeds, we select high quality seeds, we preserve and we replant.
Plant again.
Yes.
We share. I can share a seed with Dr. Doreen.
Unfortunately, the
share
seeds
seeds
that
with you.
are there right now
Yes.
are those that you cannot replant.
You can't replant.
It's a one-off thing.
You can't replant, you can't share. So culturally it's not working. It's against the principles of agroecology.
Yes, damages the soil
Connectivity,
health.
all that.
And also talking to who
dependent.
is in charge of this value chain
Value chain.
from
I think
the garden.
also our policies should speak more. I appreciate government that in 2019 the cabinet approved the National Organic Agriculture Policy, the NOAP. But the Uganda National Agriculture Policy speaks more about the cash crops, sugarcane, tea, yes, fertilizer, all that, which was not aligned to the interests of the smallholder farmers. So we are saying there should be a policy shift, and this cannot happen without participation of farming communities. Movements needs to be built. I'm glad ESAF has really made it. You have organized our farmers, you have capacitated them into grassroots movements. That's what we want. These movements should be championing policy advocacy on fertilizer, to have organic fertilizers, subsidies on organic fertilizers, on trade to have fair markets for agroecologically produced crops
Yes.
and many others.
Thank you, Onen. You've elaborated so much. So I also want to just understand. I know last week the whole land sector was in Mbale doing awareness creation on land rights, land policies, practices, and procedures. So I wanted to pick your mind on that again. What is the place of awareness creation or knowledge management and all that in actually trying to provide solutions to some of these barriers that you talked about? Is awareness creation even doing something? Is there any change that we are seeing in the communities?
Yes, I would take it from one of the principles of agroecology, that is co-creation. Co-creation emphasizes knowledge, co-creation of knowledge, but also awareness, public awareness. Just like you said, awareness is key in empowering our communities to know their rights, understand their rights, build consciousness. The consciousness that what can I do with these rights? How can I exercise the rights? And where can I go if my rights are being trampled on?
Yes.
Then they should be able to demand for their rights and protect their rights, land rights. Because you can't demand for what you don't know. You can't protect what you don't understand and what you don't know. So awareness becomes key in agroecology transition. Last week from the 9th annual National Land Awareness Week, where ESAV, the National Land Coalition, played very critical roles, and PELAM as well, in getting information to the grassroots. We learned that most of landowners didn't have information about formal documentation of their land rights.
True.
In most of those meetings, barely 3 members. I'm talking about meetings that would converge 100 plus
Yes.
participants. Barely 3 members would put up their hands when the facilitators ask how many have at least land a document. Leave a title, just a document, sales agreement, or just gifting,
A gift deed or
the
something.
gift deed, all that. Barely 3
Yes.
would put up their hands, which pointed to the fact that yes, the conflict, it can be understood in that context, that people lack information about documentation of land, and land is not documented widely, and therefore prone to conflict. And as Dr. Doreen stated, when land has conflict, it is not put to use.
Not at all.
Because you plant, somebody comes and weeds. You weed for the second time, somebody comes and harvests. You see that?
To help
And
to harvest.
Yes, so
and just to
because of the conflict.
And just to add on, from yes, as part of the consultants that are drafting the national land policy, most of the efforts are being directed towards sensitization and awareness creation. We believe that 60% of the land governance challenges that we have in this country can be resolved through sensitization and awareness raising. Like he said, that most Ugandans do not know their land rights, or they do not know where to go or what to do in the face of violation of their land rights. So it's about this woman knowing that I cannot be put off this land when my husband has died.
Yes.
Issues of succession, Amendment Act, do they know? It's about this woman knowing that if I've not consented to the transaction on this land, I cannot be taken off. But it's also about customary land owners or holders knowing that this is a legal tenure With or without the document, I am safe enough and I can also demand for my land rights. So that knowledge is lacking, and if people have that knowledge and information, then we are going to deal with so many issues of land governance, but also protect the communities from land violations and the violators themselves knowing that people are informed, are empowered, and they can demand for their land rights. Sensitization is very crucial, but
Yes.
the type of sensitization is very important. How is the information packaged? Is it secure your land rights and go commercial and forget about agroecology?
next after?
Yes, yes. But also issues of, if I have secured my land rights, then what next? How am I going to put this land to use? And when now we go into agroecology, sensitizing people and getting to know the cons and the pros of using those fertilizers, of cutting down the trees, of being sensitive to nature while you're producing your different crops that are supposed to contribute to the nutritious meals that we enjoy.
Thank you very much.
Maybe something that came prominently at the National Land Awareness Week
Yes.
was the issue of extractives, where we found cement companies blasting rocks in communities, and the impacts were really far-reaching on the communities.
Yeah.
Health risks were high, and environmental risks were high, degradation was high, and you could see that this community didn't know their land rights, and they didn't know how they could protect themselves and their land and environment from such degradation. They raised issues that would point to environmental impact assessment reports and action points. We are very sure there was limited or even no impact assessment done there. And if it was done, it was without the participation of the community, because they said they never had that exercise done. And yet, if the impact was assessed, mitigation strategies
Should have been put in
should have been
place.
put, and the communities would be the ones now to monitor implementation of those strategies. But as it is right now, there's nothing in place. Everything is happening at God's mercy, and the communities are left on their own. And we are glad that that issue was picked for public interest litigation, which the land actors are going to follow up on it and ensure that the companies adhere to at least the basic standards, and also respect environmental rights, but also rights of these communities, but also rights to a sustainable natural resource management.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Doreen and Moses. As we come to almost the close of our discussion, there's just one more question I want to pose. I wanted to try to understand which are some of those policy and governance changes that you think would most effectively create an enabling environment for agroecology to thrive. I can start with Doctor.
Yes, I think it's high time we started thinking and our discussions to be driven towards resource tenure alongside land tenure security. That, by this I mean that yes, you can have your land secure, you can have the documents, you can have all that it takes. But let us start introducing things like someone else can utilize and benefit your land while you, Stella, you hold the title. And this is understanding things like the lease. For example, your land, instead of being bare like that, you can lease it to someone to grow the trees, to plant the trees, and then they will enjoy the resource, which is the tree, but then you will also be the owner of the resource, which is the land. But with such a setting, documentation, and sensitization is very important. We have seen in other countries where, like Congo, yes, the land might be yours, but the trees are for the state or for someone else. But then the land is being put to proper use instead of it being left at large. Still, it is very important, and that is what we should look to at securing the land rights of the majority land users, the ones that I talked about that are at the level of access when we look at the continuum of land rights. Yes, those are the real users. Those are the ones that have knowledge about nature, and those are the ones that are going to degrade the environment if their tenure is not secure. Because for someone who is facing poverty, you cannot reason them out to not cut a tree and burn charcoal when they don't know what they are going to eat next on the table. So yes, as we conclude, as we know, the relationship between land rights and agroecology is very intimate, because if one is not got right, then the other cannot survive or, yes, thrive.
I would pose the same question to Moses Onen. What are some of those policy or governance changes that would enable, of course, agroecology to thrive?
Yeah, thank you. I would begin with urban planning. We have lost significant land to human settlements. You go to the villages, there are a lot of urban centers cropping. And what are they taking? Farmland, fertile land. Instead of us adopting very organized urban planning and settlements, we are glad that there's a law on condominium that has come in place. That law should be expedited. Why should we grow settlements horizontally and not vertically? Settlements should be growing vertically, not horizontally, so that even these urban centers coming, they can sit on very minimal land and yet very effectively functioning. So I think government should expedite implementation of that law. Secondly, it's we need to review most of our policies, the national land policy, the water policy, agriculture policy, to embed the principles of agroecology in them. The institutions, the functionality of these institutions should have agroecological principles underpinning them. Yes. I think also we need to review policies around how we constitute these institutions that should support land governance. Talk about the Area Land Committee.
Yes.
Talk about the District Land Board. Yes. Many times the politicians take advantage of these structures and they appoint their political managers into these positions as a way of rewarding them. That is wrong.
They just fill up the positions.
They fill up the position. You bring somebody because they've been campaigning for you so well, not knowing that there will be a problem to the functionality of this institution.
Yes.
So we need to desist from that. Our policy should be revised to curtail such practices and abuse by the politicians. It's the same for District Land Board, same for physical planning committees. That should be revised. And then also, government should expedite approvals of genetic resources for food and agriculture policy. It has been there lying, not approved. We think that policy is key. It will go a long way in protecting the biodiversity. And finally, the National Agroecology Strategy that is already at cabinet level. We call upon cabinet to expedite approval of this strategy. It is very helpful. It addresses issues with livestock, with fisheries, crops, entomology, all that. And it's a well thought through a strategy that would drive us forward. Finally, we should not tire advocating for progressive policies and guiding this country into the direction that should promote agroecology. We are doing a campaign of stopping importation of harmful pesticides into Uganda. There are some pesticides that have been banned and it is public knowledge, but they still find their way
into Uganda.
Yes. I think we need to wake up as a country. Thank you so much.
Yeah, but also what is happening in Container Village, how these pesticides, the varieties, anyone is doing what they want in this chain. Yes.
Thank you so much, Dr. Doreen and Onen, for really shedding light into this very critical discussion. We've now seen that there's really a connection. We cannot talk about agroecology without secure tenure rights. We cannot talk about secure tenure rights without agroecology. We have also understood the core principles that we need to actually mainstream in most of our initiatives, in most of our awareness, public awareness sessions that we carry on a daily basis. It has been an exciting episode. Thank you very much, our listeners outside there that have been glued to this podcast. We've come to an end of this episode. We invite you to subscribe to ESAF Uganda TV on YouTube, but also follow us on all our social media pages and platforms to get more insightful discussions and conversations.